All right, welcome to the October 3rd Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from September 5th. Are there any changes or motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 360 Corporate, they are still working on their revisions from comments from last meeting, so they're postponing till November. Wow. So that brings us to item B, the request of Coventry Realty LLC owner for property located at 111 State Street, requesting parking conditional use permit under section 10.1112.14 to allow 0 parking spaces where 46 are required. Said property is located on Assessor Map 107, Lot 50, and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic District.
Thank you, John Shagnon from Ambit Engineering, Haley Ward, here with Mark McNabb and Marie Bodie from McNabb Properties. So this application came to you a month ago, and after that, the discussion, the floor plans were altered to add an additional unit of additional dwelling unit. So we redid the cover letter and application, and redid the parking calculations. So this is the redevelopment of the 111 State Street property, and if you go to the plans, existing restaurant on the first and second floor, and some of the second floor was converted to residential. Now the entirety of the second floor is proposing to be converted to residential. So in and of itself, as far as parking numbers, the conversion of the restaurant space to residential requires less parking, but as far as the calculations based on the zoning ordinance, it's an increase of, because we're adding dwelling units which require parking. The overall parking requirement goes down because of the conversion, as I said. I don't know if you have any insight. We got the staff comments. Don't know if that was from Eric, but Tracy can speak to the basement uses in the basement area, and then we can talk about any corrections that are needed.
Sure. So 2 topics on the basement. One is parking required for basement occupancy. Most of the basement is accessory occupancy, storage, mechanical, electrical. The one area per zoning that would potentially require parking is the dishwashing area, which is in the middle there. Yep. Above and below that is storage, but right in the middle is a dishwashing area, dish pit, and that's 170 square feet. So at 100 square feet per dish pit use, that's 1.7 parking spaces additional. Bicycles were the other topic. Per the calculations, we need 2 bicycle, and I can forward you the calculations on this. There is space for about 6 outside, which would be where the current bulkhead is. The bulkhead's being removed right there. Yep. So we could put 6 there. We also are planning to put 6 in the lower storage room on the corner of State and Chapel, indoor. Yep. So that's above and beyond the requirement. So 6 bike spaces beyond the minimum is good for a deduct of 1 parking space.
So we can update that for the planning board submission. We didn't have time to get that all buttoned up for today, but hopefully you can move us along to planning board.
Also, those uses, that area in the basement where they do some prep work that's adding that space, that's been that way for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. It actually was more than that. Agave used to have 2/3 of that lower basement as prep area for the whole above, and then we reduced it to much smaller when we did the renovation. And, I just wanted to explain that, we came back because I guess it was a determination that with too many bedrooms, staff felt that it looked like a boarding house. That's why we made the big apartment on the second floor into two, to avoid that perception, even though that's governed by leases and governed by, we understood that the position was if it looks like a duck and squawks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So we just made that into two, and so it didn't have the perception of a boarding house. Also wanted to explain that when we came for the apartments before, we didn't see the continual deterioration we have in restaurants. We just don't have the business to have a two-story restaurant. So I just wanted to explain what happened between, we were only here, 6 months, 8 months ago for the other apartments. It was always a two-story restaurant. It was Jack Quigley's, and then it was AJ's or AK's, and then it was Agave for 15 years, and then it was Soul. And it's just run its course. The second floor has no demand. It not only has no demand, it loses significant money, and it can't be staffed. So that's when we said, well, wait a minute, we have a housing problem on all our restaurants. And so I just wanted to explain why we came back, only 6 or 8 months later with closing that second floor of Soul. Really, its only use with one exit out, and for our demand is residential. So that's just a little bit of narrative of how we got where we got. We also find that we have about 30 residential people living downtown in properties I own. And I stated this before, on these type of properties that have no parking, I have 2 cars on those 30 people. So there still seems to be, for some people, hard to understand that there are some people without cars, but they are. There are a number of people who choose not to have them. There's a number of people who aren't allowed to have them. And then there's a lot of J1s. There's a lot of circumstances that if you create those smaller apartments without parking and price it that way, the marketplace isn't going to pay you as much for an apartment with a parking space versus without one. So it's a really good product to have. It limits who will rent it, and that's the type of rentals we need for our restaurant housing downtown. So I just wanted to explain how we got where we got. We also have talked about this before, but I never missed the opportunity for people who may not have been involved in this calculation as long as I have. Since 1985, I've been involved in this parking calculation for 38 years. For the majority of the time, we either had an impact fee or we had a baseline calculation on what parking was for a building. And if you went under the baseline, closer to 0, you never came up. So all these type of requests which go closer to 0, better our condition over a restaurant, never came forward. I just want to say that because zoning gets changed all the time. In our 400-year-old historic district downtown, in the core of it, 80% of our buildings are built on lot lines. We can't provide parking. And so I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes that people think like there's favoritism played or something. Oh, you didn't require parking. We need to understand our downtown. We need to understand it's 400 years old. This building in particular is one of the older ones. The front of it's 1791. I can't provide a well or a leach field any more than I can provide parking. I'm dead on arrival. And so I think Portsmouth, it's healthier in our historic district to do away with parking on properties that have no land. If it's a permitted use downtown, it should be a permitted use. So I know that's just speaking for future if you're talking zoning or you're talking about things. I think probably the fairest, if you felt you had to micromanage parking on buildings that could never produce it, would be the way they did it before, where they had a baseline. And if you bettered your baseline, you didn't take the time up of commissions and boards and all that. So Any questions? I don't think we have any more to our presentation.
No, I think that sums it up for your guidance today, and hopefully you can move us along.
Any comments or questions? There was one about the calculation, about calculating each uses individually and then and rounding there and then adding. I think it might have just added one space.
Okay.
Oh, so we totaled all the uses, and then at the bottom, we round up. Are you saying
So
The ordinance says
individual
you-
uses
you-
get
each
rounded up.
individual use you
Each use.
total and then
round up for each use?
yeah,
Okay.
total each like all the residential and
Sure.
then round up and then so I think
Okay.
And we can still get this
right. I just
with
need
a public notice
Right.
for planning board this.
I would just
right?
need the total
Yep.
because it's always going to be zero, you know.
Yep.
But we need to know the total.
Right.
If you can get that
The
to me, either tonight or the first thing in the morning.
Yep.
I think the ad goes out tomorrow, or it's due tomorrow. So
Okay. Yep.
And what was the net, Tracy? We added 1.7 for the basement, but we took 1 away for bike parking.
Yeah,
Is that
so
correct?
it's a net
0.7.
add of 0.7 spaces, and if you round up, it's 1.
But then also round
We'll
up
have
as
to
he
look
asked,
up.
so,
Yeah.
per use.
Yeah.
Was that 1 or 2? Did we come up with a number?
I think when we were reviewing it, it was one additional, but so it might be 48. We'll just have to confirm that. Any other comments or?
The kitchen space in the basement, is that included?
There's an
That-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
It was
the
like 100
the dish
came
pit,
late.
that's the additional 1.7 spaces.
Right.
And you explained about the size of it before Eric got here.
Yeah, so it doesn't include the food storage areas. It's only the area where an employee might be, which is in the middle on the left bay, where the sinks and there's an ice machine there and a dishwasher.
All right, I guess, well, I have to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here? Let me check Zoom. There's no one on Zoom and no one here to comment, so we'll close that portion. And open it up for more discussion or a motion.
Yeah, I think they
Motion to move
presented
this on to the planning board.
Yep. Second. I think they presented it well, and
Should there be that they correct the number and then it goes forward, or that's?
with the
that's it?
corrected number, I
Yeah.
think we can review it, but I think we know what it'll be.
All right, motion.
Planning board, do they need a motion to approve or deny? Is that what they're looking for? Or just that we reviewed it? I forget what the.
Well, we're just supposed to review the parking demand analysis,
Yeah.
so.
I think it's a recommendation, isn't it?
We typically make a recommendation. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Is this your shortest meeting?
It might be.
Unless there's a second, is there a second?
Somebody second
No,
this.
we have to stay here. The chair can call it.
All right, we're adjourned.